Another setback for Americans looking to buy a home. Today, President Trump said he would not sign the largest housing affordability bill in decades until Congress passes the strict voter ID bill he wants. An Oxford economics study found only 38% of U.S. households make enough money to own a typical home. That is down from 57% in 2020. Consumer investigator Heather Sullivan talked to a local expert about the affordability crisis and how this new legislation could help.
Finding a place to live, whether buying or renting, is getting further out of reach for many. Congress passed the Road to Housing Act with bipartisan support to help increase the housing supply and bring down costs. We asked Colleen Hafner with Rise STL, a nonprofit that works to develop affordable housing, how the bill might address these challenges. One provision would limit institutional investors from buying up existing single-family homes.
So it does sort of start to inflate rents overall. It decreases the level of service that folks get from their landlord because, again, they're not necessarily a local company.
The U.S. Government Accounting Office reports institutional investors have already bought up 3% of single-family homes nationwide and have targeted some St. Louis neighborhoods.
So it sort of puts everyone on notice that, hey, this is not necessarily the best thing for the community, and we need to start looking at ways to build wealth with homeownership again.
The bill would also remove regulatory barriers to help develop more affordable housing, launch a program to convert vacant buildings into housing, and streamline inspections for the Housing Choice Voucher program.
Hopefully some relief in terms of unnecessary regulations or regulations that just haven't kind of kept up with time.
The bill would also authorize the Federal Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program to better serve lower-income disaster survivors and provide $30 million for home repair grants.
I've talked with many home repair providers, and they might go into someone's home to fix, say, a leaking bathtub, but they walk right past like a falling down porch and they can't do anything about it.
A bill that could help change the landscape for home buyers and renters in St. Louis. Heather Sullivan, First Alert 4.
And President Trump has 10 days to sign or veto the housing bill. Otherwise, it will automatically become law. If he does veto the legislation, Congress has enough votes to override it, so it will likely get through eventually.